Government shutdowns. We hear about them all the time, right? Closed parks, delayed paychecks. It feels like a total failure of the system. But what if, for some folks, this isn't a failure at all, but actually a winning strategy? That's the really troubling question we're digging into today. Just 6 words. Every day gets better for us. This was reportedly said by a party leader during a government shutdown. Just let that sink in for a second. While federal workers and families are struggling, the feeling inside the Beltway is that things are improving. Politically, anyway. That one quote, it totally flips the script, doesn't it? It suggests a shutdown isn't some crisis to be avoided, but a tool to be used. So yeah, that's really the question we've got to get to the bottom of. When exactly did the government shutdown stop being seen as a crisis and start being treated as a strategy? What happens when failure becomes a deliberate, calculated move on the political chessboard? All right, so to really unpack this, we're going to look at it from 5 different angles. First up, is this a genuine failure or a deliberate strategy? Then we'll get into the very real human cost of these political games. After that, we'll talk money, morals, and who's controlling the story you hear. And finally, we'll zoom out and look at the big picture, the slow disappearance of the political center. Okay, let's dive right into part 1 and tackle that fundamental question. Is a shutdown some kind of principled last stand, or is it just a cynical power play? So you've got 2 camps here, and they could not be more different. One side says, look, this is our duty. We have to stand firm to protect crucial programs when Washington is broken. But the other side? They're calling it what it is, political extortion. Basically, holding the entire government hostage to get what you want. 2 completely different ways of seeing the exact same thing. And we have to be really clear here. This is not a one-party problem, not by a long shot. As Nancy Pelosi points out, both sides have used this weapon when it suited their agenda. So this isn't really about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about a broken system where the shutdown has become a normal go-to move. And this is where this idea of political stagecraft comes in. The whole game has shifted. It's less about governing and actually making policy, and way more about performance. It's about how things look. Shutdowns aren't just about winning a policy fight anymore. They're about winning the media war, like a reality show where the prize is good press. But this political stagecraft, it's not just a show. It has very, very real consequences. Because when government becomes a theater, it's the citizens who get cast as the unwilling extras in the drama. So let's talk about that human cost. And this is where things get, well, pretty uncomfortable, ethically speaking. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. If you truly believe your cause is just, is it acceptable to cause short-term pain for what you see as a long-term good? I mean, where do you draw that line? And this pain, it isn't just some abstract idea or a talking point on the news. We're talking about real people. The TSA officer at the airport working without a paycheck, wondering how they're going to make rent. A military family staring at empty grocery shelves. Small business owners near federal buildings whose customers have just vanished. These are the people caught in the political crossfire. And this is where the whole argument just gets turned on its head. Nikki Haley's point is that real leadership isn't about trying to justify causing pain, it's about preventing it in the first place. It reframes the entire debate. A shutdown isn't a necessary evil. It's a failure of leadership, plain and simple. Okay, so we hear all this talk about compassion, right, for working families. But is that really what's going on here? Or is all the moral language just a cover for a much deeper battle over money and control? Let's look at the numbers. And this is fascinating because you see this huge disconnect between the political message and what people actually want. The whole fight was framed as needing more government investment. But when you look at the polling data cited by Larry Kudlow, a whole 45% of Americans want less government spending, and only 13% want more. So you see, this goes way deeper than just a budget dispute. It's a clash of fundamental philosophies. Is spending on people the solution, like Elizabeth Warren says? Or, as Rand Paul argues, is it a path to national bankruptcy that actually hurts everyone in the long run? These are 2 totally opposing worldviews that just can't be reconciled. But you know how it is in politics. The facts, that's only half the story. The other half is about who gets to tell that story. So who's writing the script for the shutdown? Let's look at the media's role in all of this. So think about it. Depending on which channel you flipped on, you got a completely different movie. In one version, the press was just reporting on a leader's resilience against the opposition. In the other, it was nothing more than campaign marketing. turning a cynical ploy into a heroic stand. Same event, two totally different realities. But then you get this other idea. What if it's not even about political bias? What if it's about profit? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez suggests that the media's real motive is its own bottom line. The argument is that outrage sells. From this point of view, politicians are just characters in a big drama that the networks make money off of, and a divided country is great for business. So, okay, let's recap. We've got strategy over substance, a media that runs on outrage, and the public is stuck right in the middle. Where does all this lead? To something really dangerous. The total erosion of the political center. You know, that place where compromise and progress actually used to happen? Well, Donald Trump puts it pretty bluntly. In his view, the center isn't just quiet, it's extinct, a casualty of partisan war. Wow. It's a bleak thought, but it makes you ask, what on earth happened to the middle ground? So how did we get to this point? Well, Barack Obama laid out this kind of scary feedback loop. It starts with politics becoming a performance. Then the media gives all the airtime to the outrage because, hey, it gets ratings. Social media blows that division up even more. Then the donors start funding the loudest, most defiant voices, not the cooperative ones. And eventually, before you know it, we, the voters, start thinking the loudest person is the most principled one, and quiet compromise starts to look like weakness. Each step just feeds the next. And Mitt Romney gives it a name that really sticks. He calls it an addiction. He argues that Washington has become addicted to the adrenaline rush of a crisis, not the slow, hard work of actual wisdom and governance. And in a system that thrives on chaos, a government shutdown isn't a bug in the system anymore. It's become a feature. And so, at the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. The fundamental choice in our politics today seems to be between two things: dialogue or the off switch. Do we want leaders who solve problems, or do we want leaders who believe shutting down the country is a winning move? The answer to that question, well, that's going to define a lot more than just the next shutdown. It's going to define the kind of country we want to be.